descriptions, as they are written now, probably have some insights into the grounds part of a school. And with the new thing that we've approved last month with the grounds crew, see, that's an element of a job description and a person's time that can actually be taken away and afforded more into the custodial realm. So I'm hoping that we will take a strong look at that. And thirdly, I would request that we look at supervision and how should supervision be done with our custodial staff. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, you need us to make a motion and vote on this.
Question that's already been,
We have a motion.
Motion full. So we were in discussion. So, if we're ready for the vote, all in favor of approving, maintaining higher standards for the next 6 months at the 8 schools where they have been involved for the past year, then we will evaluate the situation at that time. Indicate by raising your right hand. Any nays? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Harrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can I ask one question, Dr. Harrell? Because I mean, I know ultimately what we were trying to accomplish at the beginning, but this doesn't do it, but so after the end of the 6 months, I mean, are we going to look to expand? Is that our plan, to look to expand if we're satisfied with the performance of high standards?
So one of the main concerns that come out of facilities was as we did the survey, and facilities members, please jump in anytime. As we did the survey was that miscommunication piece it looked like between who's responsible for what's high standards supposed to do, what are our day porters supposed to do. So part of the goal of this motion proposal is for us to get all on the same page, make sure we are clear as to what our contract is for and what our day porters do. So then after 4 month time, I can come back and report. So then we can make a definite decision on at least the rest of this academic year to finish with high standard and potentially move forward from there. Yes, sir. So it looked like that we wanted to gather some more data. And as I've stated before, my entire goal, as I know is all of our goals, we want clean buildings and facilities for our children, is to make sure our bar is raised as to what we need to do. So I think, Mr. West, this will give me an opportunity to work with all parties involved, as well as potentially work with our current staff that we have to try and raise the bar, so to speak, as to where we need to be. And then once we come back, yes, sir, then that would be an opportunity for the board to reevaluate on the level of service that you would like, either moving forward entirely or just continuing with high standard in the 8 schools that we have for the remainder of the year.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Harrell,
Yes,
through your final report, let's say at the end of the 4 months, or between the 4 months and the 6 months, will you also include in that report recommendations for how we better monitor and evaluate our custodians?
Yes, ma'am. That's
Okay,
a
and
key
who would
point.
be responsible for that?
Yes, ma'am. I will. That's something that I would like to work on. Because as you noted probably in the survey, all of our principals pretty much asked for some additional support when it comes to making sure things are getting done, as Mr. Henderson and I noted ourselves when we went out to one of our schools. Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Well, we just move on. All right, we'll take G, alternative accountability model.
Good evening. Back in 2014, December of 2014, the State Board of Education offered us the opportunity to use what was called an alternative accountability model at 2 of our schools, Edgewood Community Developmental School and Wayne Middle High Academy. The State Board of Education recognizes that both of those schools serve student populations with special needs, varying degrees of special needs, and they offer us the option to have them evaluated a little differently than a traditional school. Since that time, we have been using what's called the Alternative Schools Progress Model, which values 3 components. One is student persistence. In other words, do students who enroll at that school stay enrolled, stay in school, and continue to make progress? Number 2, student achievement, which is the same test scores that everybody else takes and uses. And then finally, student growth, the EVOS growth that you're hearing about. The biggest difference between this accountability model and the accountability model that other schools are required to use is how those three components are weighted. Student persistence would count 20% of the total grade for each of these two schools. Student achievement, an additional 20%, and student growth would count 60% of the school's progress grade that they are judged by. We have been using the progress model for 4 years. I'm asking your permission to continue to do that for a 5th year now at Edgewood Community Developmental School and Wayne Middle High Academy. It does require board action for us to be able to continue to use the progress model at those two schools.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue with option B, alternative schools progress model at Edgewood and at Wayne Academy. Then I have a question afterwards.
Second.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have a discussion?
Second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I got your second.
The question is, well, obviously, it's more of a statement. I prefer option B anyway because it weighs more on growth than it does on the actual achievement. How do we get this into our other schools?
It would require legislative action.
Okay, I know what to do next. Thank you, sir.
All right, are there any other questions or discussion? All
I have
right.
a question.
Yes.
Could you tell me what our rating has been over the last 2 years, whether it's progressing, maintaining, or declining?
If I remember
schools.
correctly, I'd really not like to give you bad information in front. I'd rather, can I pull it up on my computer and report back to you tonight? I want to make sure I don't misquote because the ratings have varied for both of those schools, and I just don't want to tell you a wrong answer. So if you'll permit me, I'll be glad to go look that up for you.
Please.
Would you be willing to share with all board members?
But we could go ahead and vote.
Yes. All right. Mr. Henderson.
I can't vote until I hear the report now.
Well,
If every year is declining, that would tell me maybe this is not the right thing for us to be doing.
all right. I'm hoping they have pulled out very well.
I know I wish that all of our students and teachers were
I
looking
wish-
at growth.
Mm-hmm.
But most of our schools have problems with meeting growth.
Not as bad as we do the.
Not as bad as we do with them.
Well, when you look at the low performing aspect.
But that's because of the way they count. The part of it is the way they count the growth.
Because of the way it's weighted.
The way, the way. Yes.
What?
Just ignore me. It started early today. All kids are back in school.
That's a good thing.
No.
They had to go through the drop-off line.
Option C, because that doesn't tell us anything. Wait.
Can we come back to this?
Is that group?
While he's looking up that, we're going to move forward with our public comments, and then we'll come back. Is that appropriate?
I'm there, Madam Chair.
Okay.
In 2016-17, and keep in mind, 17-18 data cannot be released publicly until the State Board of Ed receives it on September the 5th. Okay? So I'll have to go back to 16-17, at which time Edgewood Community Developmental School was rated declining, and Wayne Middle High Academy was rated maintaining. Now let me find 15-16. In 15-16, Edgewood was rated declining, and Wayne Middle High Academy was rated maintaining. Keep in mind, your other two options at this point are that a school, those two schools could use the same exact accountability model everybody uses, which is 80% based on student test scores and 20% based on growth. Or the district could develop some alternate model to propose to the State Board of Ed for their approval. We have never chosen to do that. We've always chosen the progress model.
You said 80%.
80% would be achievement and 20% would be growth if we were to choose to evaluate those schools that way. The other thing that I would tell you is that prior to this year, those schools have never received what's called a school performance grade, like a letter grade, A, B, C, D, F, because they're on the progress model. This year, they will receive what's called an alternative, basically an alternative letter grade that is required by the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is the federal legislation, and the state ESSA plan came up with a way to use the alternative methods here to assign them a letter grade the same as others might receive, but using their criteria, not everybody else's criteria. And I'll have more for you on that after the state board acts on the 5th of September.
Okay. Are we now ready for the vote? All in favor of Edgewood Developmental School and Wayne Middle High Academy remaining on option B, Alternative Schools Progress Model, indicate by raising your right hand. Okay. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And now we want to address High School Firefighters Technology Program memo of.
This is our annual contract to continue the services and the program at Goldsboro High School. And I met with the new principal, Mr. Horn, and the new fire chief, Chief Dixon. And the only change from last year's contract is the addition of the Lunsford clause, which is where all their employees, will have the drug testing and the background check. And so it's already been reviewed by our council.
Will they do that through us or through their jobs?
Through their jobs, and they
Okay.
already do it. The city of Goldsboro already does
Yes,
that, but
okay.
it just wasn't in the contract.
All right.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the memorandum of agreement between the Wayne County Schools and the City of Goldsboro for the firefighting academy.
I'll second.
All right. We have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the memorandum of agreement for Wayne County Schools and the City of Goldsboro, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now we are ready for our public comments. Mr. Smith?
Wayne County Board of Education requests to appear before the board. The Wayne County Board of Education welcomes the opportunity to hear from the public during its regularly scheduled meetings. If you wish to appear before the board, please review the following procedures. Appearance request forms are available to the public at the receptionist desk in the lobby 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak must place their appearance request form along with any handouts in the basket located at the receptionist desk in the lobby. The basket will be collected at 5 p.m. and only those who have appearance request form in the basket will be allowed to speak. Public comments are scheduled to take place at 5:30 p.m. Presentations are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The chairperson shall call time on any presentation which exceeds the 3-minute time limit. Organizations or groups wishing to speak about a particular topic may be asked to reduce the time of each individual or to use a spokesperson to share comments on behalf of their organization or group. Substitute speakers will not be permitted, and speakers may not donate any portion of their time to another speaker. No presentation shall include any complaint, criticism, or negative comments regarding the conduct or performance of identified school personnel. No presentation shall include information about a particular student, which is privileged and confidential under state and federal privacy laws. First up tonight, we have Mr. Barry Merrill, who wishes to speak about Southern Wayne High School improvements and the sales tax referendum.
Thank you. For several years, members of the Southern Wayne community have been advocating for the county and the schools to keep their promise for the additional gym at our campus. There have been monies allocated, surveys done, and we were hoping that some dirt would get turned at the campus this fall. The gym project, to do it right, will probably cost over $5 million. And while on the campus, addressing the 30, probably closer to 40-year-old temporary mobile classrooms that were drug on the campus makes sense. That could add up to as much as $3 million. There was only $2.2 million set aside for Southern Wayne. Southern Wayne community has spoken out forcefully. We have waited 18 years for our second gym. This is our time. We expect a gym with lockers and dressing rooms to put us on a par with CBA and Rosewood, replacing bathrooms and locker rooms that are awful. This is our priority. I spoke and others spoke spoke with our county, I spoke and others spoke effectively and persuasively with our county commissioners last week, and others in the community contacted them before and after the meeting. As you may be aware, they pulled the Southern Wayne project off the agenda. I believe we have the votes to complete the gym project and the classroom project if, and that's a big if, the money is available. Not before the election, but if the sales tax referendum passes, I believe the county will complete Northwest, Fremont, and both the gym and the classrooms at Southern Wayne. More important, the sales tax money will create a revenue stream that can help fund further school facility needs in the county. While it cannot say it on the ballot, the commissioners have pledged to use that money there. There are
Mr.
school.
Merrill,
Yes, ma'am.
your 3 minutes is up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, but we have a copy of your statement.
Thank you.
Next, wishing to appear before the board is Mr. Keith Copeland. He's a concerned community member, and he'd like to speak upon the topic of debt and needed funds for textbooks, materials, school supports for educational improvement of all student achievement and be used for select group of students for drug testing.
Good afternoon, board members. I just want to say I was not aware of that part about putting materials into the basket along with my information. It doesn't matter to me whether you read it afterwards or whatever, but I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'll just pass it to you. And you can take a copy of it. Those are, that's something from SAMHSA. And most of you are probably familiar with that information there. So, and I've sent out a letter to all of you in regards to my concerns about any type of current or present or future policy regarding urine drug screening in the Wayne County school system. And my reasons are for what we've just been talking about is that there are limited funds And if we're going to use funds, let's use them on something that's going to be beneficial and not just on some select group, such as athletes and extracurricular. That, to me, is just senseless when we're talking about what's going to be effective use of our monies. All right? And so I've included statistics in there from 2015 about what's important, what our age group, 12 to 17-year-olds, the different types of substances that they use. And in the letter that I sent to you by email, you're probably aware that most of the drugs that are tested are not going to be in anybody's system for more than 4 or 5 days except marijuana. And unfortunately, and I'm against, and you know, I want to just put it out there, I am absolutely against any type of drug use, alcohol use, tobacco use, not only for teenagers, but also for adults. So I just want to put that out there so you can know, Mr. Goldman is trying to, maybe he got some little things. No, I don't want that. But what I do want, I recognize that the importance of educating children, monies that we're going to use, let's put it on something that's going to be effective. When you start looking at some of those statistics, you'll see those statistics all are across the nation very low, except for alcohol and cigarette use. And certainly we're not going to be testing for that. And so, the point to me is pointless. And then if you're not going to help people once you identify a problem, then it seems to me that really it's just a punitive kind of thing. And what's the sense in that? If you're going to identify something and you want to help students, which I heard board members say that they want to help some students, then give them some help. And you would never want to do that on a one test urine screen. So now I'm out. I can't play any kind of sport, my sport, and I wasn't clear on how they were trying to define when the next time would be that I could actually participate. I do
Mr.
for a
Copeland,
fact.
3 minutes up.
Thank you. I'll bring the rest tonight, next time.
Okay, thank you.
Next, wishing to appear before the board is Ms. Sylvia Barnes with the NAACP, and she wishes to speak about the custodial staff and the possibility of eliminating some positions.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am here, and I have to say that some of the information that has been shared with us here at this meeting is some of the things that I was going to speak about. I am happy to know that you all have a concern, as well as the people in the communities that you all serve as well. As many of you know, that I try to be here at every school board meeting, whether I go away happy or sad. I have heard what has been said. At the meeting a couple of months ago, I called for a community-wide meeting on August the 7th, 2018. A couple of school board members came. Everybody was invited. And we had a concern about the report, part of the report that was given, that 40 people will possibly be retained by Higher Standard, and the other people might not have any work to do. The other part of our meeting concentrated on the work. Many other people spoke and said that they were dissatisfied with the quality of work that Higher Standard was doing because the bathrooms were left in terrible shape. The classrooms were not being obtained in the manner in which they should be obtained. One teacher even said that every morning, one of the first things that is done is that he goes to the bathroom and clean the bathroom. He brings his own paper towels and that sort of stuff, because that school or the staff has to use the same restroom as the students use. And I don't need to call the name of that school. You all probably already know. where it is. So the NAACP is asking that you all look at that, you consider that you consider the number of people that will be remained, and we are hoping that nobody will be let go. I did get a copy of every staff member, the years of service that they have served, and their salaries. And I would hope that we would not eliminate anyone. Thank you very much for your time. I will come back if we are not happy when the next report come out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barnes. All right. That's it. Okay. When we vote on this, are we covering all of this? All of it? The budget amendment and everything? Okay. All right. We need a motion for the consent agenda. We have already voted to pull, policy 1710. Mr. Smith?
Consent agenda. A consent agenda is a group of items passed with a single motion and a vote. These materials and/or items are routine business or have been thoroughly discussed in committee meetings open to the public and attended by board members. No debate is allowed on any item included on the consent agenda. If a board member wants separate consideration of any item, it may be removed by request.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as amended.
All right.
I second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? All right. All right, we're now at the board member comments. All right, let's start with Mr. West tonight. Board Attorney, would you have comments to make? I was turned down last time, so I didn't want to put you on the spot. All right, Mr. West?
I don't have any comments, Madam Chair.
Mr. Flowers?
No comments, Madam Chair.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank all the partners in education at Brogdon Middle School and Brogdon Primary School for coming together and sponsoring our Community Unity Day on this past Friday. I would like to thank Dr. Dunsmore and Ms. Ishii and Mr. Dirksen for coming out and being a part of that. We were very pleased. We did not even have room in the church to hold all the people that showed up there. We gave out backpacks, we fed them lunch, we had games and activities, and the partners in education really came out and supported it. It was the first time we had ever done something like that, where we brought all of the partners in education together at the two different schools to plan such an event. So I'm thankful to my church, First Congregational Church in Dudley, for hosting this event, but there were several other churches in the faith community that participated, particularly Brogdon United Methodist, Mays Chapel, Dudley Christian, Abundant Grace, Faith Presbyterian, and others. And then we had some local businesses as well that contributed to the event. The teachers from Brogdon Middle School and Brogdon Primary School came out, and they were very helpful in doing many of the things that we offered. And I see one of my assistant principal from Brogdon Primary just came in. But it was a very nice affair for us, and I thank all that contributed to that. Secondly, I do have to say that I am becoming more and more concerned about some of the practices, particularly the personnel practices that are occurring within our Wayne County Public Schools. I've received numerous calls about the inability to move up, particularly after experiencing several years of experience right here in the Wayne County Public Schools, and particularly in the clerical staff area. There seems to be a lot of concern there. So I would like to request that some of those personnel matters be referred to our personnel committee for them to investigate and study as well. And thirdly, I'd like to thank the board for their indulgence today in the presentation by Mr. B.J. Lark. It goes a long way when you see little kids in the 4th grade coming up and saying, I want to do something for our teachers. It, in some ways, is a bad reflection on us, saying that we're not providing everything that we need to provide for our teachers. So I hope we will take this situation at heart and begin to do all that we can to support our teachers, our administration, our leadership, and do what we can to ensure that every child in Wayne County, whether you're over on the other side of the river or on this side of the river, but every child deserves a good quality education. Thank you.
Mr. Pridgen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome back to school, everybody. It's been quite a summer for a lot of folks, but we're getting back in the grind and getting ready to go for another year. I was really glad that I was able to attend the governor's visit here at Rosewood Middle School, and to hear especially some of the comments that he made. He didn't really make them to us, but he made them to the news media that were there, and they asked some very good questions. And one of the things that really caught my ear about what he said was that that he was trying his best to put forth a stipend, an extra stipend for teachers, to where they did not have to buy supplies out of their own pocket for classrooms. And I thought that that was very admirable of him to do that and try to work towards that. Whether it'll pass, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But you know, we've all talked about a shortage of supplies in the classrooms. You know, BJ, coming tonight, I think, is a wonderful thing, what a young man has done. But could you imagine what everybody in North Carolina could do if they would, you know, if they pitched in? And the governor was very concerned about teachers not having the supplies and having to spend their own monies. That was one of the primary things that he actually did talk about, in addition to the buildings all across the state that are in really disrepair. And interestingly enough, I was talking with the educational representative that was there, and I was telling him that for a couple of years, when you go to school board conferences and you listen to some of the facilities people, a lot of the states that have school boards have taxing authority, they don't really have the issues that we have here in North Carolina. But basically what they were saying is, because of technology, so many of these schools are outdated. When Rosewood Middle School was built, you were probably lucky if you had 1 or 2 electrical outlets even in the classroom. And now we're having to have 50, 60, 70 electrical outlets in a classroom just to accommodate the technology infrastructure of where schools have gone to. So not only structurally do they need the upgrades, but they also need the upgrades from a technology standpoint. I see Darn Flowers here tonight, and Darn, you know, you're from Fremont, you know the same thing exists at Fremont School. That community really comes together to help that school a lot, but at the same time, is it adequate for the technology that we're trying to put in the schools? People say, well, why put so much technology? Why don't you do more books in the schools? Well, first of all, the book manufacturers are going the way that the colleges are. You can't get in college if you don't have a laptop. You can't register for college if you don't have a laptop. You can't register for your classes if you don't have a laptop. And so in order to have children prepared that are wanting to go to college, we have to have those things in our classrooms, and we have to be able to teach them on those things. We don't teach keyboarding and typing like we used to with typewriters. We basically teach it on computers, and because that's where everything's gone. It'd be very interesting to see where computers go in the next 20 years. Everything might be voice activated then, but they're still going to have something to plug into it and power it. So all that being said, at these school board conferences, they tell us that if a building is 20 to 25 years old, it is outdated. It needs to be torn down and replaced because from that point on, you are spending more money on keeping a facility up and keeping it up to date technology-wise than you would be to actually be building a new school. So that's the comments I wanted to say. Thank you.
Mrs. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to start out first by saying what an amazing young man Mr. Brandon is. That young man should inspire all of us to do just a little bit more. And that little bit more might be maybe not getting coffee today and buying, school supplies, or just make a change, just a little things. And it'll add up to $3,500 pretty quickly. The other thing I wanted to mention was to Mr. Merrill, if I'm incorrect on this, Dr. Dunsmore or Dr. Harrell, please correct me. Southern Wayne's out to bid. Is that correct, or close to? Close to. So don't have dirt turning, but we're really close. Because at the last facilities meeting, that was one of the things that was right at the top of the discussion. We're getting, you can almost smell it. It's close. They're not going to have to wait 20 more years. I can promise you that. Not if I'm still on this board. I mean, that is going to get moving. But the one thing that I really am excited about and had written down in my notes to talk about today is Steve Ashford and his boxing gym. My husband started working with Steve about 7 years ago when they were located just off of Royal Avenue in the back of an old garage, and it was so hot the guys didn't have any air conditioner to box in. And so my husband bought these large industrial fans for these boys to box in. And Steve's vision was to get young men from Goldsboro High School that just needed a chance to have an outlet for their energy, for their free time, something to do. And that was actually what I went to college for, was Parks and Recreation, because I found that tennis was a wonderful outlet to keep me out of trouble. Sports of any sort, or music, or art, or whatever your passion is, students need to have the opportunity to pursue that. And so Steve and Billy started working very closely together. Then they outgrew the small facility they were at, put together a partnership with Goldsboro Parks and Recreation, and used a room off the back of the Recreation and Parks Department, I'm pretty sure for free, for quite a few years, and continued the progress and the purpose of the gym, which was to keep those boys off the streets and to also help them academically. One of the things they had to do is, as the report cards were coming in, they would have to go show the report cards to Steve, show them what they were doing and that they were still working hard. And we would work with tutoring. We had the Optimus Club come in and bring in computers, anything that we could do to keep these young men on the right path. Well, thankfully, through the push of the community to keep the W.A. Foster Center open, Steve Ashford's Boxing Club was given the W.A. Foster building. The Goldsboro City Council and Chuck Allen put a lot of money into renovating that building. And now Ashford Boxing is officially located in that facility. So this weekend, actually on Sunday after church, there was a huge backpack giveaway at the Ashford Boxing facility at the old W.A. Foster building. There we had Above and Beyond Style, Weave Zone, Bless Beauty and Barbershop, and I'm not sure if James Sanders is an independent barber, if he works at one of those three. But those organizations were giving free haircuts to the young men and free hairstyles to the young women out of the back of the building. During the same time, we had Kappa Epsilon Psi, Goldsboro Sigma chapter, which is connected with the military, Higher Calling Ministries, and Walking by Faith that did donations for book bags, school supplies, and they set up a table, and I know we probably served over 200 students on Sunday with supplies for back to school today. And then we also had cooking, Alex Spears and Timothy Whitfield. There was free hot dogs, free cheeseburgers, and free chicken for anyone that came and showed up. It was hot, and it was awesome. And hopefully we'll have some pictures in the paper soon. I've taken them and forwarded them. But it was a wonderful experience, but it was all part of providing for the community and for your neighbors, but at the same time letting people see what Steve is going to be able to do down there in that neighborhood. So please consider supporting Ashford Boxing. It is a wonderful facility, and it's going to be ran by a wonderful man with a heart for the young men of this community. And those are my comments.
Mr. Smith?
First of all, again, kudos to Mr. Brandon Lark for his efforts and his example for us grown folks. We could certainly learn a lesson from his action. I told him when he walked by that he'd make a great politician someday, because in my opinion, that's what politicians should be doing. They should be doing rather than talking. So I like that. And very familiar with Mr. Ashford. I coached him when he played football in high school, so I feel like I had a hand in bringing that to fruition. So that's one young man that I'm very proud of, and his son is doing very well as well. Want to also thank Dr. Harrell, Dr. Mason, Dr. Artis, the rest of the staff, Mr. Hayes, Dr. Lewis, Ms. Ishii, Mr. Dirksen. You guys do a great job. I can't thank you enough for what you do. Everything that you do is not always broadcast on television. You bring clarity to confusion. So thank you for what you do. And to the NAACP, thank you for your comments. We are listening. You know, a lot of times just because you don't hear us give you feedback does not mean we're not listening. We're definitely going to read the information that you provided, and we're going to take it into consideration, and we're going to discuss these issues as they come forward. Lastly, I want to say to all of the students across the county, welcome back to school. It is definitely a great year that we're going to have. I'm claiming it right now. We're going to have a great year. Everybody's going to improve greatly, and we're going to see if we can't talk to those legislators and make sure that they hear how important it is to look at our growth as opposed to performance. Thank you.
You sound good.
Thank you, ma'am. And welcome back to everybody. It's exciting first day. There's a lot happening. I think the young man that came up here and spoke obviously speaks for himself. We have some great students in this county and doing a lot of great things, and I'm looking forward to a fantastic year. And again, thanks to all the staff and those that are sitting behind the leadership team that are here. I appreciate what everybody's doing.
I would like to recognize the young man, Brandon. He has done an outstanding job, and I encourage his family to stay supportive. Mr. Henderson, I'd like to recognize you in the same manner for the work that you did through your church, and I know that you took a leadership role in the activity that took place last weekend, or this past weekend, right? And all of the organizations that have collected school supplies for our students. I was at one of my constituents' home, and there are 5 children there, and they had a big container of school supplies and book bags ready to come to school today. I wish all of the students and staff members and principals a very, very successful year. And I want to thank Dr. Dunsmore and the leadership team and all of those people that worked with them who allowed us to have a wonderful day. I did not receive not one complaint or concern about school today. And if you did, I don't want to hear it now. But we're looking forward to a very good and successful school year. And I want to thank our board members for doing the things that they do to help us stay on track and develop the policies and follow through with the things that we're supposed to be doing. So, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair, I move.
I got 45 motions. Okay, I got a second. I know there's no discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, any opposed? Nay.
If somebody opposes that one day.